Let me begin with a truth most people don't realize until it's too late. There comes a moment in your life when everything feels like it's changing, when faces grow distant and silence replaces familiar voices. And in that moment, Allah is not taking people away from you. He is lifting you to a place they were never meant to reach. Because Allah removes people from your life, not when you fall, but when you rise. You did not lose them. Allahun asked, who could not walk with your eyes? My dear brother, my dear sister, let me meet you in this quiet moment when the world has finally lowered its voice and you are left alone with your own thoughts. You may think you are here because you were searching for something, but often Allah brings us to moments like this because something inside us has been carrying a question for too long. A question you did not speak out loud, a question you pushed aside during the day when life kept you busy. But now, in the stillness, it rises to the surface. Why did they change? Why did they leave? Why does it feel different now? There was a time when their presence felt natural. You did not have to think before speaking. You did not have to protect your heart. You did not have to measure your words. You laughed freely. You shared your worries. You allowed yourself to be seen as you were without a mask. They knew your struggles. They saw your weakness. They were there when things were heavy. And in those days, their closeness felt like comfort. But then slowly, quietly, something began to shift. Not in a way you could point to, not with a clear moment where everything broke, but with small changes you felt more than you saw. A message that took longer to come back. A conversation that felt shorter than it used to. A warmth that turned into politeness. A connection that became careful. And at first you ignored it. You told yourself you were overthinking. You told yourself everyone gets busy. You told yourself nothing had really changed. But your heart knew, and that is when the question began to form. What did I do wrong? My dear brother, my dear sister, let me sit with you in that question for a moment because it is a heavy one. It carries guilt, it carries doubt, it carries the fear that somehow you became too much or not enough at the same time. Let me answer you gently. Sometimes you did not lose people because you failed. You lost them because you began to rise. You began to heal in ways they did not expect. You began to grow in ways they did not understand. You began to change in ways that no longer fit the version of you they were comfortable with. And that is a quiet truth that is hard to accept. There are people who know how to stand beside you when you are struggling. They know how to comfort you when you are hurting. They know how to feel important when you need support. But they do not always know how to stand beside you when you become strong. Because your strength changes the relationship. When you were broken, they could guide you. When you were unsure, they could advise you. When you were lost, they could lead you. But when you begin to find your way, the space between you changes. This does not always come from jealousy or bad intentions. Sometimes it simply comes from the fact that not everyone grows at the same pace, in the same direction, or in the same way. You started seeing life differently. Things that once pulled you into arguments no longer felt worth your energy. Things that once made you anxious no longer controlled your heart the same way. Things that once defined your happiness no longer had the same power over you. You began choosing peace where you used to choose reaction. You began choosing patience where you used to choose urgency. You began choosing faith where you used to choose fear. And this new way of moving through life created a gap, not because you wanted to leave anyone behind, not because you wanted to be distant, but because you were no longer standing in the same place. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me tell you something that is not always spoken gently. Growth is not neutral. It changes the shape of your world. It changes the way you speak. It changes the way you listen. It changes the way you respond. It changes what you tolerate and what you walk away from. And when you change those things, the people around you feel it. Some will feel inspired by it. Some will feel confused by it. Some will feel uncomfortable with it because your growth becomes a mirror. And not everyone is ready to look at themselves through the reflection of someone else's healing. You may have noticed this in small moments. A joke that once landed easily now feels awkward. A complaint that once brought you together now feels heavy to listen to. A habit you moved away from now feels strange to be around. And slowly, without either of you saying it out loud, the connection begins to stretch. Let me say this clearly, because it matters. Not every distance is a betrayal. Sometimes it is a revelation. Sometimes Allah allows the mask to fall, not to show you something ugly, but to show you something honest. He shows you who can walk with you when you are becoming something new, and He shows you who was only comfortable with the version of you that stayed the same. This is not about blame, this is about understanding. Because there are relationships that are built on shared pain. You connect through struggle, you bond through hardship, you stay close because you are both surviving something together. But when one of you begins to heal, the foundation of the relationship changes. And not every connection knows how to rebuild itself on something stronger than pain. My dear brother, my dear sister, think back. Were there moments when you felt you had to shrink yourself to keep the peace? Were there moments when you held back good news because you did not want to make someone uncomfortable? Were there moments when you downplayed your growth so others would not feel left behind? If so, let me tell you something with kindness. Allah does not grow His servants so they can hide what He is doing in them. He does not lift hearts so they can stay small. When Allah begins a work inside you, He is not only shaping you, He is also shaping the space around you. And sometimes that means some people no longer fit in the place you are being guided to. This does not make them bad. It simply means their role in your life was for a different chapter. There are people who walk with you through the beginning of the story. There are people who appear in the middle. And there are people who are meant for the next pages. But not everyone is written into the entire book. And that is part of the wisdom of Allah's design. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the part of your heart that feels hurt by this. It is painful when someone you trusted becomes distant. It is painful when someone you shared life with no longer feels close. It is painful when you realize that growing sometimes means losing. Allah does not ignore that pain. He sees the nights when you replay conversations in your mind. He sees the moments when you wonder if you should reach out. He sees the times you miss what used to be. And in that quiet ache, He is not leaving you alone. He is teaching you something deeper. He is teaching you that your worth is not tied to who stays or who leaves. He is teaching you that your path is not defined by who understands it. He is teaching you that your journey with Him is more important than your comfort with people. Sometimes the reason Allah allows someone to step back is because their presence would pull you forward into old patterns, old habits, old fears, old versions of yourself that you are being asked to leave behind. So He creates space, not with a harsh push, not with a painful break, but with a gentle distance. And in that space, something begins to happen. You start hearing your own thoughts more clearly. You start feeling your own direction more strongly. You start turning to Allah more often because there are fewer people to lean on. And this is not loss. This is strengthening, because there comes a moment in every believer's life when Allah wants to show them that their foundation is not in people, it is in Him. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me ask you to see this moment differently. What if they did not leave because you were not enough? What if they stepped back because Allah is making you into someone who needs a different kind of environment to grow? A seed does not stay in the same soil forever. If it did, it would never become more than what it already is. Sometimes Allah changes the ground beneath you so you can reach higher than you ever thought you could. And yes, when the ground changes, some things that were once close are no longer within reach. But that does not mean they were taken from you. It means you were lifted beyond them. Let me say this softly, because it is important. You do not have to chase people who cannot walk with who you are becoming. You do not have to explain your growth to those who are uncomfortable with it. You do not have to dim what Allah is brightening inside you. Your responsibility is not to make everyone understand your journey. Your responsibility is to stay sincere in it. If someone can walk with you in this new chapter, welcome them with kindness. If someone cannot, let them go with peace. Because forcing closeness where Allah is creating distance will only create more pain for both of you. My dear brother, my dear sister, the moment you began to rise, something was revealed. Not just in them, in you. You learned that your heart is capable of standing without being held by the same hands. You learned that your faith is capable of growing without the same voices around you. You learned that your strength is deeper than you thought it was. And that is a gift, even if it came wrapped in loss. Let me leave you with this thought. Allah is not taking people out of your life to leave you empty. He is making space for deeper peace, space for clearer purpose, space for relationships that see you for who you are becoming, not just who you were. So if someone changed when you rose, do not rush to call it rejection. Sometimes it is simply Allah showing you that your next step requires a lighter heart, a clearer path, and a circle that can walk beside you without asking you to stay small. Stay gentle, stay sincere, stay close to Allah, because the one who is guiding your rise will never step away from you. And in that truth, you will always find your ground, even when the people around you change. Your growth became a test for the hearts around you. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to you in this quiet space, the kind of moment where the world finally loosens its grip and you are left with your own breath, your own thoughts, and the gentle awareness of your heart. You may not have noticed it at first. Change rarely arrives with noise. It does not announce itself. It does not ask for permission. It simply begins to move through you, slowly, quietly, like light entering a room at dawn. One day, you react a little less. One day, you speak a little softer. One day, you walk away from something that used to pull you into conflict. And you do not even realize it, but something inside you has shifted. Allah has begun a work in your heart. You become more patient with what you cannot control. You become more careful with what you give your energy to. You become more aware of what brings you closer to Him and what pulls you away. This is what growth looks like. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not something you post or announce. It is something you live. And here is where the quiet test begins. Because when you change, the people around you feel it even if they cannot explain it. They notice that you no longer argue the way you used to. They notice that you no longer complain the way you used to. They notice that you no longer chase the same things you used to. At first, they may not say anything, but inside, something begins to move in their hearts. Your calm becomes unfamiliar. Your patience becomes uncomfortable. Your focus becomes confusing. And this is not because you have done something wrong. It is because your growth has placed a mirror in front of them. Let me explain this gently. When someone sees you becoming more disciplined, they are reminded of the areas where they avoid discipline. When someone sees you becoming more peaceful, they are reminded of the chaos they still carry. When someone sees you becoming more connected to Allah, they are reminded of the distance they may feel in their own faith. And that reminder can be heavy. Not everyone knows how to sit with it. Some will feel inspired by you. They will draw closer. They will ask questions. They will want to grow with you. But others will feel uncomfortable. Not because they dislike you, not because they want you to fail, but because your change quietly challenges the version of themselves they have become comfortable being. And this is where the test begins. You may notice it in small ways. A comment that feels slightly sharp instead of supportive. A joke that feels like it carries something underneath it. A moment where your good news is met with silence instead of celebration. And you begin to feel it. Something is different. You did not ask to become a test for anyone. You did not set out to make anyone feel uncomfortable. You simply chose to become better, to become calmer, to become closer to Allah. But sometimes that alone is enough to shake the space around you. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me tell you something important. Not everyone who feels challenged by your growth is your enemy. Some are simply being confronted by something inside themselves that they have been avoiding. And instead of turning inward, they turn outward. Instead of asking, what can I change? They ask, why are you changing? Instead of reflecting, they react. This is part of the human heart. It is easier to question someone else's growth than to face your own stagnation. You may feel this in conversations. You speak about peace and they speak about problems. You speak about purpose and they speak about distractions. You speak about patience and they speak about urgency. And slowly the space between you grows. Not because you are better than them, But because you are walking in a different direction, my dear brother, my dear sister, let me slow this down for a moment, because this is where hearts often get confused. Growth does not make you superior. It makes you responsible. Responsible for how you carry yourself. Responsible for how you treat others. Responsible for how you handle the distance that begins to form. It can be tempting to look at someone who reacts to your growth and feel pride. But that is not what Allah teaches us. Allah teaches us humility. So when you notice someone becoming uncomfortable with your change, do not respond with arrogance. Respond with kindness, but also respond with clarity, because kindness does not mean returning to who you were. It does not mean shrinking so others can feel taller. It means staying gentle while staying true. My dear brother, my dear sister, there is a subtle difference between being understanding and being pulled backward. Understanding says, I see where you are. Being pulled backward says, I will stay where you are. And Allah did not grow you so you could stay in a place He is calling you out of. You may feel torn in these moments. Part of your heart wants to hold on to what was. Part of your heart feels drawn to what is becoming. This is not an easy place to stand. You remember the laughter. You remember the closeness. You remember the days when everything felt simple. And now things feel complicated. But let me offer you a different way to see this. What if this complication is not a problem? What if it is a sign that something deeper is happening? Allah does not always test us with hardship. Sometimes He tests us with growth. He tests how we handle becoming different in a world that expects us to stay the same. He tests how we carry our peace in spaces that thrive on noise. He tests how we hold our patience in environments that reward reaction. And in those tests, not everyone around us passes. Not because they are bad, but because they are not ready. My dear brother, my dear sister, there is a verse in the Quran where Allah reminds us that He tests hearts. And sometimes the test is not about what happens to you. It is about what happens around you when you change. You may notice that some people begin to step back. Conversations become shorter. Invitations become fewer. Connections become quieter. And this can hurt. Let us not pretend it does not. It hurts to feel like you are losing people simply for becoming better. It hurts to feel misunderstood. It hurts to feel like your growth has created a wall instead of a bridge. Allah sees that pain. He does not dismiss it, but He also does not waste it. Because in that pain, something else is being formed inside you. Discernment. You begin to see who is happy when you are at peace. You begin to see who is comfortable when you are calm. You begin to see who can celebrate your progress without feeling left behind. And this knowledge is not meant to harden your heart. It is meant to guide it. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the part of you that may feel tempted to stop growing just to keep everyone close. Do not do that. Do not trade the work Allah is doing in you for the comfort of staying familiar to others. Because the closeness you keep by shrinking is not closeness that will carry you forward. It will only keep you standing in a place you were meant to pass through, not live in. Allah's plan for you is not small. It is not limited to keeping everything the same. It is about becoming what He created you to be. And sometimes that means walking a little ahead, not to leave people behind, but to follow the path Allah is opening in front of you. Let me tell you something that may bring you peace. The people who are meant to grow with you will find their way back to you, even if the distance grows for a time. They will ask, they will reflect, they will walk toward the light they see in your life. And the ones who are not meant to walk that path will slowly find their own direction. And both of those outcomes are part of Allah's wisdom. My dear brother, my dear sister, when you feel the weight of being a test for others, remember this. You were not created to carry the comfort of everyone around you. You were created to carry your faith. You were created to carry your character. You were created to carry your trust in Allah. If your growth makes some people uncomfortable, let that discomfort be between them and their own hearts. Your responsibility is to stay sincere in your journey. Stay gentle in your words. Stay patient in your actions. Stay humble in your progress. But do not stop walking. Because the one who began this work in you did not begin it by accident. He began it with purpose. Let me leave you with this thought. When Allah changes you, He is not only preparing you for a different future. He is also preparing you for different company. Company that can sit with your peace. company that can celebrate your growth, company that can walk beside you without asking you to return to who you used to be. So if you feel the hearts around you being tested by your change, do not be afraid. Do not rush to fix it. Do not rush to explain yourself. Simply stay close to Allah, because the closer you are to Him, the clearer everything else becomes. And in that clarity, you will find that the right hearts always recognize what Allah is building in you. Some souls are assigned to your struggle, not your elevation. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me meet you here in this gentle space where the day has finally loosened its grip on you, where the noise of responsibilities fades and the quiet allows your heart to speak in a softer voice. There is something many people do not realize until they experience it themselves. Not every person who walks into your life is meant to walk with you all the way. Some are sent for a season. Some are sent for a lesson. Some are sent to help you survive a moment you did not think you would make it through. And when that moment passes, their role quietly comes to an end. This is not always easy to accept, especially when the connection felt real, the bond felt deep, and the memories feel too meaningful to simply place in the past. You may remember the days when you and they stood together in difficulty, when you both carried heavy hearts, when you both spoke about your worries, when you both felt uncertain about the future. In those moments, you were not just companions, you were survivors together, and that kind of connection can feel unbreakable. But let me speak gently now. A bond built in hardship does not always know how to live in ease. When you begin to rise, when clarity starts to replace confusion, when peace starts to replace restlessness, the relationship enters a new space. And not every connection knows how to breathe there. You may notice it in small ways. The conversations that once flowed easily now feel forced. The shared struggles that once brought you close are no longer there to hold you together. The things you care about now no longer match the things they care about. And slowly you begin to feel like you are standing on different ground. This can be confusing because you remember how close you were when things were hard. You remember how much they meant to you when you were struggling. So you ask yourself, if they stood with me in my worst days, why can they not stand with me in my better ones? Let me answer you softly. Sometimes Allah sends people to you to help you through the storm, but He does not always send them to stay for the sunshine. Not because they are unworthy, but because their purpose in your life was tied to a different chapter. Think about this for a moment. There are teachers you needed in childhood that you do not need as an adult. There are lessons you had to learn early that no longer apply later. The teacher was not wrong. The lesson was not wasted. It simply reached its end. In the same way, there are people who come into your life to teach you patience, to teach you humility, to teach you how to hold on when everything feels like it is falling apart. And once you learn those lessons, Allah begins to move you into a different phase of your journey. But the heart often wants to carry everyone from the old phase into the new one. And this is where the pain begins, because not everyone is meant to make that crossing with you. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me say this with care. Some people know how to sit with you in the dark. They know how to listen to your worries. They know how to share your tears. They know how to stand beside you when you feel weak. But they do not always know how to stand beside you when you feel strong. Because strength changes the balance. When you were unsure, you needed reassurance. When you were lost, you needed guidance. When you were hurting, you needed comfort. And some relationships are built around providing those things. But when you begin to find your way, when your heart becomes steadier, when your faith becomes firmer, the shape of the relationship changes. And not every connection knows how to reshape itself. This does not always come from bad intentions. Sometimes it simply comes from the fact that the other person is still standing in the storm while you have begun to step into calmer ground. And when someone is still in the rain, they may not know how to walk in the sunlight. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me slow this down, because this is where many hearts feel a quiet sadness. You may feel like you are leaving people behind. You may feel like you are becoming someone they can no longer recognize. You may even feel guilty for growing. But let me tell you something important. Allah does not grow you to make you feel ashamed of becoming better. He does not guide you forward so you can keep looking backward. There is a difference between gratitude for who walked with you before and attachment that keeps you from moving forward. Gratitude says, I honor what we shared. Attachment says, I cannot go where Allah is calling me if you cannot come with me. And sometimes Allah is asking you to choose trust over familiarity. You may notice this in how your heart responds now. Things that once excited you no longer have the same pull. Conversations that once filled your time now feel empty. Environments that once felt normal now feel heavy. This is not because you have become distant. It is because you have become different. Your heart has been tuned to a different frequency. You are beginning to care about things that reach deeper than before. Purpose, meaning, peace, connection with Allah. And when those things begin to take the front seat in your life, some relationships naturally move to the back. This is not rejection, it is realignment. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me share something that may bring you clarity. There are people who are meant to meet you at the bottom of the mountain. They help you gather your strength. They help you take the first steps. They remind you that you are not alone. But the climb to the top requires a different kind of endurance. Different pace, different focus, different breathing. And not everyone who stood with you at the bottom is prepared for the climb. Some will stay behind, not because they do not care, but because their journey is taking them in a different direction. And this is where trust in Allah becomes essential. Because if you try to carry everyone with you up the mountain, you will exhaust yourself. You will slow down. You will lose your footing. You may even decide to stop climbing altogether. Allah does not want that for you. He wants you to reach the place He is guiding you toward. Even if the path becomes quieter, even if the voices behind you fade, my dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the part of your heart that feels lonely in this season. It is not easy to realize that some people were meant for your struggle, not your elevation. It can feel like a loss. It can feel like something beautiful has ended. And in a way, it has. But something else is beginning. You are being prepared for relationships that can meet you where you are going, not just where you have been. People who can sit with your peace without trying to disturb it. People who can celebrate your growth without feeling threatened by it. People who can walk beside your faith instead of questioning it. These connections often come later, not in the middle of the storm, but after the sky begins to clear. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me say something that may sound simple, but carries deep meaning. Allah is not only shaping you, He is shaping your environment. He is not only building your heart, He is building the space around your heart. And sometimes that means some people no longer fit in the place. He is preparing for you. This does not erase what you shared. It does not make the memories meaningless. It does not turn the past into something negative. It simply places it in the past, where it belongs. You can honor what was without holding on to what no longer is. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may feel tempted to hold on tightly to those who are slipping away, to call, to explain, to try to bring things back to how they used to be. Let me speak gently here. Not everything that fades needs to be revived. Not every door that closes needs to be forced open again. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is to place what you love into the hands of Allah and trust that He knows where it belongs better than you do. This does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean becoming distant. It means becoming at peace. Peace with the idea that some people were a beautiful part of your journey, but not the destination. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me leave you with this reflection. If you look back on your life, you will notice that you are not the same person you were 5 years ago. The things you wanted have changed. The things you feared have changed. The way you see the world has changed. So why would you expect every relationship in your life to remain exactly the same? Change is part of being alive. Growth is part of being guided. And Allah, in His wisdom, allows some connections to end so new ones can begin. Ones that fit the person you are becoming, not just the person you used to be. So if you feel the space around you growing quieter, do not rush to fill it with what is familiar. Let it remain open for a moment. Let Allah show you what He is preparing to place there. Because sometimes the people who walk away from your struggle are simply making room for the people who will walk with you into your purpose. Stay patient, stay sincere, Stay close to Allah. The one who guided you through the storm will also guide you into the sunlight. And He will never leave you standing alone on the path He Himself opened for you. Allah created distance to protect the peace He was building in you, my dear brother, my dear sister. Let me meet you in this still place where the day has finally exhaled and the world feels quieter than it did just a few hours ago. This is often the moment when the heart becomes honest, when the noise fades and the deeper thoughts rise gently to the surface. You may be feeling something that is hard to describe. A sense of space around you, a quiet where there used to be voices, a stillness where there used to be movement. And your heart may whisper, why does it feel like everyone is drifting away? Let me answer you with softness. Not every silence is empty. Not every distance is a loss. Sometimes distance is a form of protection. You see, when Allah begins to build peace inside a heart, He becomes careful about what that heart is exposed to. Peace is delicate at first, like a small flame in a dark room. It does not need a strong wind. It needs shelter. And sometimes the wind is not a problem. It is just too strong for something that is still learning how to burn steadily. There are connections that do not intend to harm you, but they stir what Allah is calming. There are conversations that are not cruel, but they awaken worries Allah is teaching you to release. There are environments that are not evil, but they pull you back into patterns Allah is guiding you out of. So Allah, in His mercy, begins to create space. Not with harsh words, not with broken relationships, but with gentle distance. Messages become fewer. Meetings become less frequent. Time begins to stretch between moments you once shared closely. And your heart feels it. It feels like something is missing. But what if something is also being preserved? My dear brother, my dear sister, let me slow this down for a moment. Think about how you protect something that matters to you. If you are carrying something fragile, you do not rush through a crowded place. If you are holding something precious, you keep it close to your chest. In the same way, when Allah is building something tender inside you, He becomes careful about what He allows near it. He is shaping your thoughts. He is softening your reactions. He is strengthening your trust in Him. And all of that work can be undone or at least delayed by the wrong kind of noise. Not loud noise, but emotional noise. The kind that pulls you into old arguments. The kind that keeps you replaying old wounds. The kind that makes you question progress you were beginning to feel. So Allah creates a quiet space around you. And in that quiet, something powerful happens. You begin to notice yourself. You begin to hear your own thoughts without them being interrupted by everyone else's opinions. You begin to feel your own emotions without having to explain them to someone else. You begin to turn to Allah first because there are fewer people around to turn to. This is not loneliness. This is refinement. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the part of you that may feel uncomfortable with this distance. It is natural to want closeness. It is natural to want connection. It is natural to want familiar voices around you. Allah created us as beings who seek companionship. But He also created us as beings who need moments of solitude to grow. There are things Allah teaches you in crowds, and there are things He teaches you in quiet. In the crowd, you learn patience. In the quiet, you learn sincerity. In the crowd, you learn how to deal with people. In the quiet, you learn how to deal with your own heart. And when Allah wants to teach you something about your heart, He often lowers the number of people around it. Not to punish you, but to reach you. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may be wondering why this feels so sudden. Why now? Why this season? Why this change? Let me offer you a gentle possibility. Perhaps you are standing at a point in your life where Allah wants to deepen something in you, your faith, your purpose, your awareness of Him. And depth is not built in noise. It is built in stillness. When you are always surrounded, it is easy to borrow strength from others. When you are often alone, you learn how to draw strength directly from Allah. And this is a different kind of power. A quieter one, a steadier one, a deeper one. You may notice this happening in your daily life. You speak less, but when you speak, you mean what you say. You listen more, but you choose carefully what you take into your heart. You react less, but you reflect more. This is peace being formed. And Allah does not leave peace unguarded. He places boundaries around it, not always visible ones, but felt ones. You may feel less drawn to certain places, less interested in certain conversations, less comfortable in certain company. This is not you becoming cold. This is you becoming selective. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me say something that may bring clarity. Not every connection that leaves your life was meant to stay, but every connection that leaves makes room for something else. Sometimes that something else is not a person. Sometimes it is a deeper relationship with Allah, a prayer that feels more honest, a moment of reflection that feels more real, a trust that feels more personal. These things often grow best in quiet. Think about the moments when you feel closest to Allah. Is it when everything is busy and loud? Or is it when you are alone, your heart open, your thoughts slowed, and your soul finally able to speak? Allah knows this about you, and He creates conditions for those moments to happen. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the ache that can come with this distance. It can feel like you are being forgotten. It can feel like you are being left behind. It can feel like you are becoming invisible. But let me tell you something with certainty. When Allah is working on you in private, it does not mean He has forgotten you. It often means He is preparing you. There are things that are built quietly before they are revealed openly. There are strengths that are formed in silence before they are seen in action. There are hearts that are shaped in solitude before they are placed in the world again. This is one of those seasons. A season of internal work, a season of alignment, a season where Allah is making sure that the peace you are beginning to feel is not temporary, not fragile, not dependent on who stays or who goes, but rooted in Him. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may feel tempted to fill this space, to reach out, to stay busy, to surround yourself with noise so you do not have to sit with the quiet. Let me gently advise you, do not rush to escape this moment. There is something here for you, something Allah wants to show you about yourself, about your heart, about your relationship with Him. Let the quiet teach you. Let the distance guide you. Let the stillness strengthen you. Because when this season passes, and it will, you will carry something with you that you did not have before. A peace that does not depend on who is around you. A calm that does not break when circumstances change. A trust that does not shake when people come or go. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me leave you with this reflection. If Allah has created distance in your life, do not only ask, who did I lose? Also ask, what is Allah building? Because sometimes the most beautiful things in your life are not the ones that come closer. They are the ones that grow inside you when everything else grows quiet. Stay patient, stay open, stay close to Allah. The peace He is building in you is worth protecting. And the distance you feel today may be the shelter that allows that peace to become something strong enough to carry you through whatever comes next. Your light exposed what others were hiding from themselves. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me meet you here in this quiet moment where your heart is softer than it is during the day, where the world has finally stopped asking things from you, and you are allowed for a little while to simply be. There is something powerful about light. Not the kind that shines in the sky, but the kind that begins to shine inside a person. When Allah places light in a heart, it changes the way that person walks, speaks, listens, and even sits in silence. It is not something you announce. It is not something you try to show. It is something people feel when they are around you. And here is a truth that is not always easy to accept. Light does not only guide, it reveals. When a room is dark, many things remain hidden. Corners disappear, shapes blur, everything looks softer, less defined. But when the light is turned on, suddenly everything becomes clear. You can see what is there, and sometimes you can see what you did not want to see. In the same way, when Allah begins to bring light into your life, it does not only help you see your own path more clearly, it also begins to show others what is inside their own hearts. And not everyone is ready for that. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may have noticed this happening in small, quiet ways. You did not change your tone. You did not change your intention. You did not change how you treated people. But something still shifted. A warmth that once came easily now feels distant. A smile that once felt genuine now feels forced. A closeness that once felt natural now feels careful. And you may wonder, why does it feel like my presence makes things uncomfortable? Let me answer you gently. Sometimes it is not your presence that is uncomfortable. It is the reflection it creates. When you begin to live with more purpose, it reminds others of the places where they feel aimless. When you begin to live with more peace, it reminds others of the chaos they still carry. When you begin to live with more faith, it reminds others of the distance they feel from Allah. And that reminder can be heavy because it does not come as a lecture. It does not come as advice. It comes as a quiet comparison that happens inside the heart, not between you and them, but between who they are and who they wish they were. And that is not an easy place for a person to sit. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me slow this down, because this is where many hearts misunderstand what is happening. You did not become a mirror on purpose. You did not set out to make anyone feel exposed. You simply chose to walk closer to Allah. You chose to take your character seriously. You chose to take your actions seriously. You chose to take your time, your energy, and your heart seriously. And in doing so, you became a reminder. Not with your words, but with your way of being. There is a difference. Words can be ignored. Presence cannot be. You may notice that when you speak less, people listen more carefully. When you complain less, people feel their own complaints more clearly. When you react less, people become more aware of their own reactions. This is the quiet power of light. It does not push. It simply stands. And in standing, it shows. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me tell you something that is important to understand. Not everyone who steps back from your light is doing so because they dislike you. Some step back because they are not ready to face what your light makes them see. It can bring up questions they have been avoiding. Am I living the life I want to live? Am I becoming the person I respect? Am I close to Allah, or am I just comfortable where I am? These are not small questions. They touch the deepest parts of the heart, and not everyone is ready to sit with them. So instead of turning inward, some people turn outward. Instead of asking, what is this showing me about myself? They ask, why are you different now? Instead of reflecting, they retreat. And from your side, it can feel like rejection. But sometimes it is simply avoidance. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the part of you that may feel tempted to dim your light to keep others comfortable. Do not do that. Do not make yourself smaller so others can stay where they are. Allah did not place light in your heart so you could hide it. He placed it there so you could walk by it. So you could see your way. So you could avoid paths that would hurt you. So you could recognize what brings you closer to Him and what pulls you away. Your light is first for you. Others only see it because they happen to be standing near you. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me say something gently. You are not responsible for how people feel when they see you growing. You are responsible for how you treat them. There is a difference. You must stay kind. You must stay humble. You must stay sincere. But you do not have to stay small. You do not have to stay silent about your values. You do not have to step back from your faith. You do not have to pretend you are not changing. Change is part of being alive. Growth is part of being guided. And Allah does not guide someone so they can apologize for becoming better. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may notice that some people respond to your light in beautiful ways. They ask you how you found peace. They ask you how you became more patient. They ask you how you grew closer to Allah. These are the hearts that are ready. They see your light and feel drawn to it, not threatened by it. And these connections often become deeper, stronger, and more meaningful than the ones you had before. But for every heart that draws closer, there may be another that steps back. And this is part of the balance of life. Light attracts. Light also reveals. And revelation is not always comfortable. Let me offer you a way to hold this in your heart without becoming hard. When someone becomes distant, do not assume the worst. Do not label them as jealous. Do not label them as bad. Simply recognize that they may be standing in a different place in their own journey. Your light is not a judgment. It is a sign of where you are, and a sign of where they may or may not be ready to go. My dear brother, my dear sister, there is something beautiful about walking with light inside you. You begin to choose better paths. You begin to avoid darker corners. You begin to feel a sense of direction even when the future is unclear. And in that clarity, you begin to trust Allah more, because you see that He is not only guiding your steps, He is also shaping the world around you to match the person you are becoming. Sometimes that means people fall away. Sometimes that means new people appear. Sometimes that means you walk alone for a while, but you never walk without Him. Let me speak to the part of you that may feel lonely because of this. You are not alone. You are accompanied by the one who placed that light in your heart in the first place. And His presence is not affected by who stays or who leaves. It is constant. It is steady. It is near. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me leave you with this reflection. If your light has made some people uncomfortable, do not rush to turn it down. Instead, ask Allah to help you carry it with humility. Ask Him to help you walk with gentleness. Ask Him to help you shine without burning, because the goal of light is not to blind, it is to guide. And if Allah is using your life to guide you, and perhaps even to quietly guide others, then that is not something to hide. That is something to honor. Stay sincere, stay humble, stay close to Allah. And remember, the light He places in you was never meant to make you smaller. It was meant to help you see and to help you become the person He always knew you could be. Letting go is the moment you place your trust fully in Allah. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me meet you here in this quiet place where your heart feels a little heavier than it lets the world see, where the day has ended but your thoughts have not, where you finally have space to sit with the things you keep pushing aside when life stays busy. There is a moment in every believer's journey that feels almost invisible from the outside but powerful on the inside. It is the moment you realize that holding on is no longer giving you peace. You have tried to fix, you have tried to explain, you have tried to wait, to be patient, to be understanding, to be strong for everyone, and yet your heart still feels tired. Letting go does not usually begin with a decision. It begins with a feeling, a quiet awareness that something you are carrying is heavier than it needs to be. A sense that no matter how much effort you put in, you cannot make a situation become what you hoped it would be. And this is where many hearts struggle. Because we are taught that holding on is loyalty, that staying is strength, that not giving up is virtue. And in many situations, that is true. But let me gently tell you something else that is also true. Sometimes holding on is not faith. Sometimes letting go is. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me slow this down, because this is not an easy thing to understand. There are things in life that Allah asks you to strive for. Your character, your prayer, your effort, your intentions. But there are also things Allah asks you to place in His hands. Other people's hearts, other people's choices, other people's journeys. And when you try to carry what belongs to Allah, your heart becomes tired in a way that rest cannot fix. You may recognize this tiredness. It is the kind that comes from replaying conversations in your mind. The kind that comes from wondering what you could have said differently. The kind that comes from hoping someone will become what you wish they would be. And slowly, without realizing it, your heart becomes tied to an outcome you cannot control. Letting go begins when you recognize this. When you realize that there is a difference between doing your part and trying to do Allah's part. Your part is to be sincere. Your part is to be kind. Your part is to be honest. Your part is to be patient. Allah's part is to guide hearts. Allah's part is to change situation. Allah's part is to write what comes next. And when you step into His role, even with good intentions, you take on a weight that was never meant for you. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the part of you that may be afraid of letting go. Afraid that if you stop holding on, everything will fall apart. Afraid that if you step back, you will lose something important. Afraid that if you place something in Allah's hands, it may not come back the way you want it to. These fears are human. But let me offer you a softer way to see this. When you place something in Allah's hands, you are not losing control. You are placing it in the care of the one who sees more than you do. You see one moment, He sees the whole story. You see one heart, He sees every heart involved. You see what you want, He sees what you need. Letting go is not giving up, it is trusting. trusting that Allah's wisdom is deeper than your plans, trusting that His timing is more precise than your urgency, trusting that His mercy is greater than your fears. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may notice that when you begin to let go, something inside you resists. The heart does not like uncertainty. It likes to hold on to what it knows, even if what it knows is painful. There is a strange comfort in familiar struggle, but growth often requires stepping into unfamiliar peace. And that step feels risky. You may find yourself thinking, if I stop trying, what will happen? Let me answer you gently. If you stop trying to control what you cannot control, you will find space to care for what you can. Your own heart, your own faith, your own relationship with Allah. These are the places where your effort truly belongs. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me share something that can bring clarity. Letting go does not always mean walking away. Sometimes it means staying without gripping. It means being present without being attached to a specific outcome. It means caring without trying to carry. This is a subtle but powerful shift. You continue to be kind, you continue to be respectful. You continue to be sincere, but you no longer tie your peace to how someone else responds. Your peace becomes rooted in Allah, not in people. And this changes everything. You stop waking up with worry in your chest. You stop going to sleep with questions in your mind. You stop measuring your worth by how someone else treats you. You begin to breathe again. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the moment when you finally decide to place something fully in Allah's hands. It does not feel dramatic. There is no grand announcement. It often happens in a small, quiet prayer. Ya Allah, I cannot carry this anymore. It is yours. And in that moment, something shifts. Not always in the situation, but in you. Your shoulders feel lighter. Your chest feels less tight. Your thoughts slow down because you have finally put down a weight you were never meant to carry. My dear brother, my dear sister, this is what trust looks like in real life. It is not just saying, I trust Allah when things are going well. It is saying, I trust Allah when you do not know what will happen next. It is trusting Him with unanswered prayers, with uncertain futures, with people you love but cannot change. This kind of trust is not loud. It is quiet. It is steady. It is deep. And Allah loves this kind of trust. There is a special closeness that comes when a servant places their worries into Allah's care instead of keeping them in their own heart. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me tell you something that may bring you peace. What is meant for you will not miss you. And what misses you was never meant to be yours in the way you hoped. This does not mean everything will be easy. It means everything will be guided. Letting go does not erase pain, but it prevents pain from becoming your entire world. It allows healing to begin. It allows space for something new to enter. Sometimes, what Allah places in your life after you let go is not a replacement for what you lost. It is something better suited to who you have become. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may feel like letting go is an ending, but often it is a beginning, the beginning of a deeper relationship with Allah, the beginning of a stronger sense of self, the beginning of a peace that does not depend on circumstances. Let me leave you with this reflection. If you are holding something so tightly that your heart feels tired, ask yourself gently, is this something Allah asked me to carry, or is this something I need to place in His hands? Because the moment you place it there, you will discover something beautiful. You are not alone in carrying your life. You are being carried. And the one who carries you never grows tired. Stay gentle with your heart. Stay sincere in your prayers. Stay close to Allah. The trust you place in Him today is the ground on which your peace will stand tomorrow. Allah is teaching you to stand strong without leaning on anyone but Him. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me meet you here in this quiet space where the world feels farther away than it did just a few hours ago, where the voices that usually surround you have softened and all that remains is the steady sound of your own breathing and the gentle presence of your thoughts. There is a moment in every believer's life when something subtle begins to happen. The support around you becomes lighter. The understanding from others becomes rarer. The circle that once felt wide begins to grow small. And at first, this can feel like loss. You may look around and wonder, why does it feel like I am standing alone? Let me answer you with care. Sometimes Allah does not remove people to isolate you. He removes them to introduce you to something deeper. Your own strength, your own sincerity, your own direct connection with Him. Because there is a kind of faith that grows when many hands are holding you. And there is a different kind of faith that grows when you realize that the only hand you truly need is Allah's. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me slow this down for a moment. Think about how a child learns to walk. At first, they hold on to everything. A chair, a wall, a parent's hand, and those supports are necessary. But there comes a moment when the hand is gently loosened, not to make the child fall, but to teach the child that their own legs can carry them. In the same way, Allah sometimes loosens the support around you, not to abandon you, but to show you that your heart can stand on the faith He has placed inside it. You may begin to notice this in small ways. You face a problem, and the first person you would normally call is not available. You carry a worry, and the person you would usually talk to feels distant. You celebrate a small victory, and there is no one around to share it with. And in those moments, your heart turns somewhere else. It turns upward. It turns inward. It turns toward Allah. And this is where something beautiful begins. Your prayers become more honest. Your conversations with Allah become more personal. Your reliance becomes more real. You stop speaking to Him only when you need something. You begin to speak to Him because He is the one who is there. My dear brother, my dear sister, this is not an easy transition because we are created to seek connection. We find comfort in being understood. We find safety in being supported. We find strength in not feeling alone. So when those things feel reduced, the heart can ache. But let me tell you something gently. There is a strength that can only be built in that ache. A strength that does not depend on who stays. A strength that does not shake when someone leaves. A strength that does not rise and fall with people's opinions. This is the strength of standing with Allah. And it is different from every other kind of support you have known. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the quiet fear that may live inside this season. The fear that if you do not lean on people, you will become hard. The fear that if you stand on your own, you will become distant. The fear that if you rely too much on Allah, you will lose your connection with the world. Let me reassure you, standing with Allah does not make you cold. It makes you grounded. It gives you a place to return to when everything else feels uncertain. It gives you a center that does not move when circumstances do. And from that center, you actually become gentler, not harsher, because you are no longer desperate for approval. You are no longer anxious about being understood. You are no longer afraid of being alone. You know that even in the quiet you are seen. My dear brother, my dear sister, there is a difference between being alone and being anchored. Being alone feels empty. Being anchored feels steady. Allah is teaching you to be anchored so that when people come into your life, they add to you. But when people leave, they do not take something essential with them. Your peace stays. Your faith stays. Your sense of self stays. Because those things are no longer tied to anyone else. They are tied to Him. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may notice that this season changes the way you respond to the world. You stop explaining yourself as much. You stop defending every choice. You stop trying to make everyone understand your heart. Not because you do not care, but because you know who understands you most. And that knowledge brings a quiet confidence. A confidence that does not need to be loud. A confidence that does not need to be proven. A confidence that rests in being known by Allah. This is not pride. This is peace. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the nights when this still feels heavy. When you sit in your room and feel the absence of voices that once filled your life. When you scroll through memories and wonder how things became so quiet. When you miss being leaned on and leaning on others. Allah sees those moments. He does not dismiss them. He is not asking you to pretend that you do not feel the distance. He is asking you to let that distance lead you to Him, not away from Him. Because in those moments of quiet, when your heart feels open, Allah is closer than you realize. Closer than any person could ever be. He hears the thoughts you do not speak. He knows the feelings you cannot explain. He understands the weight you carry without asking you to describe it. And that kind of understanding changes you. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me tell you something that can bring you comfort. The people who are meant to walk with you will still come. You are not being taught to live without people. You are being taught not to depend on them for your foundation. Relationships will still form. Friendships will still grow. Connections will still matter. But they will no longer be the ground you stand on. They will be the paths you walk alongside. This makes all the difference, because now when someone walks away, your world does not collapse, it adjusts. When someone disappoints you, your heart does not break, it reflects. When someone misunderstands you, your identity does not shake, it rests in something deeper. My dear brother, my dear sister, this is what Allah is teaching you in this season. He is teaching you to carry your own faith, not borrowed from a friend, not dependent on a group, not held up by a crowd, but alive inside your own heart. This is a beautiful thing, even if it feels uncomfortable at first, because it means your relationship with Allah is becoming personal, not inherited, not assumed, but chosen, and the chosen faith is strong. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me leave you with this reflection. If you feel like you are standing more on your own lately, do not be afraid. You are not being pushed away from the world. You are being pulled closer to Allah. And when you stand with Him, you stand on something that does not move. People may come and go. Circumstances may rise and fall. Life may change in ways you did not expect. But the one who is teaching you to stand will always remain. Stay sincere, stay humble, stay close to Allah. Because the strength you are building now in this quiet season is the strength that will carry you through every season that comes after. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me stay with you here for a little longer in this quiet space where your heart feels open in a way it does not during the day, where the world has finally softened its grip and the silence feels less like emptiness and more like an invitation. There is another layer to what Allah teaches you when He asks you to stand without leaning on anyone but Him. It is not only about strength, it is about intimacy. Because when the noise of people fades, the voice of Allah becomes clearer, not in sound, but in feeling. You begin to notice the small things. A verse that stays in your mind longer than usual. A prayer that feels heavier in your chest than it did before. A moment of stillness that suddenly feels meaningful instead of awkward. These are not accidents. These are conversations, quiet ones. The kind that do not need words. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may not realize it, but when Allah reduces the number of voices around you, He is making room for His own guidance to be heard inside you. During the day, life speaks loudly. Responsibilities speak, worries speak, opinions speak, expectations speak. And all of these voices compete for space in your heart. But in this season, Allah lowers their volume. And in that lowered volume, you begin to notice something else. A pull toward prayer, even when you are tired. A desire to sit with the Quran, even when your mind wants distraction. A hesitation before doing something you used to do without thinking. This is guidance taking shape, not as a command, but as a feeling. Not as pressure, but as presence. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me slow this down, because this is where something very personal begins. You stop asking only, what should I do? You begin to ask, what does Allah want from my heart right now? And that is a deeper question, because actions can be seen, but the heart is known only by Allah. When your heart becomes the place where you meet Him most often, your life begins to change from the inside out. You may notice this in how you respond to people. Where you once felt the need to defend yourself, you now feel the ability to stay quiet. Where you once felt the urge to prove your worth, you now feel content in knowing it. Where you once felt anxious about being misunderstood, you now feel calm in being known by Allah. This is not detachment from the world. This is attachment to something deeper. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the moments when this closeness to Allah feels intense. When your heart feels sensitive. When things that once did not bother you now feel heavy. When words, actions, or even small moments touch you more deeply than before. This sensitivity is not weakness, it is awareness. Your heart is becoming more awake, and an awake heart feels more. It feels joy more fully. It feels pain more honestly. It feels connection more deeply. This is the cost and the gift of being close to Allah. You begin to care about what He cares about. You begin to feel discomfort in places that pull you away from Him. You begin to feel peace in places that draw you closer. And this begins to guide your steps in ways that are hard to explain to others. You may find yourself choosing differently, spending time differently, speaking differently, moving through your days differently. And when people ask, why are you like this now? You may not even have a clear answer, because the change did not start in your mind. It started in your heart. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me tell you something gentle. This closeness to Allah is not meant to separate you from people. It is meant to teach you how to be with people without losing yourself. When your anchor is in Allah, you can walk into any space and remain steady. Praise does not lift you too high. Criticism does not pull you too low. Acceptance does not define you. Rejection does not erase you, because your center is not in the hands of people. It is in the care of Allah. This is a powerful place to stand, but it is also a humble one, because the closer you feel to Allah, the more aware you become of your own imperfections. You begin to notice your intentions. You begin to question your reactions. You begin to reflect on your words before they leave your mouth. Not because you are afraid of making mistakes, but because you want your heart to stay clean. This is what intimacy with Allah looks like in daily life. It is not only found in long prayers. It is found in small choices. Choosing patience when you could choose anger. Choosing honesty when you could choose comfort. Choosing kindness when you could choose silence. My dear brother, my dear sister, there will be moments in this season when you miss the noise. You miss the company. You miss the laughter. You miss the feeling of being surrounded. And that is human. Allah does not ask you to stop being human. He asks you to let your humanity bring you closer to Him, not further away. So when you feel that ache, do not rush to fill it with distractions. Let it become a prayer, a quiet one, a simple one. Ya Allah, stay close to my heart. And He will, because Allah does not step away from a heart that is reaching for Him. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me share something that may bring you peace. This season of standing with Allah will not last forever in the way it feels now. It is a phase of building, of deepening, of strengthening. And when it has done its work, Allah often brings people back into your life. Not the same way, but in a way that fits who you have become. Relationships that are calmer, conversations that are deeper, connections that are more sincere. You will notice the difference. You will no longer be drawn to what is loud. You will be drawn to what is real. And this is a beautiful change. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me leave you with this reflection. If Allah has become the voice you hear the most in this season, treasure it. Do not rush past it. Do not treat it as something small, because many people go through life surrounded by noise and never hear that voice clearly. You are being given a gift, a chance to know your Lord, not only through what you were taught, but through what you experience in your own heart. And that kind of knowledge stays with you. It shapes how you love. It shapes how you forgive. It shapes how you walk through the world. So stay with Allah in this quiet. Let Him be your anchor. Let Him be your guide. Let Him be your comfort. Because when you learn to stand with Him, you learn to stand in a way that nothing in this world can easily shake. Stay sincere. Stay gentle. Stay close to Allah. The closeness you are building now will become the strength you carry for the rest of your life. What Allah removes in private, He replaces with honor in public. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me meet you here at the end of this journey, in this quiet moment where your heart feels fuller than it did when you began listening, where the world outside your screen feels a little farther away and what is inside you feels a little closer. There is something gentle and powerful about the way Allah works. He does not rush. He does not announce. He does not reveal everything at once. Most of what He does quietly, in places no one sees, in moments no one applauds, in seasons where you feel unnoticed, overlooked and hidden. And this is often where the greatest work is happening. You may look at your life and think, why does it feel like things are being taken away? People you thought would stay, opportunities you hoped would last, versions of yourself you believed you would always be. And in those moments, the heart naturally feels loss. But let me invite you to see this through a different lens. What if Allah is not taking from you? What if He is preparing you? Because before Allah places honor in someone's life, He often places them in a season of privacy, a season where no one is watching, a season where no one is praising, a season where no one is clapping for the small, quiet victories you are winning inside your own heart. This is where sincerity is tested. Will you still do good when no one notices? Will you still pray when no one is impressed? Will you still choose patience when no one is rewarding you for it? These questions are not asked out loud. They are lived. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the feeling of being unseen. It can be heavy. You may feel like your efforts disappear into the air, like your growth goes unnoticed, like your struggle is invisible. But let me tell you something with certainty. Nothing you do for Allah is ever unseen. Even if the world does not notice, Allah does. Even if people forget, Allah remembers. Even if your name is not mentioned, your sincerity is written. There is a kind of honor that comes from people, and there is a kind of honor that comes from Allah. The first can be loud. The second is lasting. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me slow this down, because this is where many hearts lose patience. We live in a world that celebrates what is visible. Success that can be posted, growth that can be measured, recognition that can be shared. But Allah often celebrates what is hidden, the tear you wiped away before anyone saw, the prayer you whispered in the dark, the choice you made to walk away from something that would have hurt your faith. These are the things that build a person from the inside. And a person built from the inside carries a different kind of presence when they eventually step into the light. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may notice that in this season of being hidden, Allah removes things that once defined you. A role, a title, a relationship, a sense of identity. And when those things fall away, you are left with a question. Who am I without these? This question is not meant to break you. It is meant to bring you closer to the answer Allah wants you to find. You are a servant of Allah before you are anything else. And when that becomes clear in your heart, everything else finds its proper place. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me tell you something gently. Public honor is not given to protect you. It is given to test you. Private growth is what protects you. Because when Allah eventually lifts you in front of people, when He places you in a position where others see you, listen to you, or follow you, it is your private sincerity that keeps you grounded. Without that, honor can become a burden. Praise can become a distraction. Attention can become a test you are not ready to carry. So Allah prepares you in the quiet. He teaches you to walk without being seen. He teaches you to speak without being heard. He teaches you to give without being thanked. And in doing so, He builds a heart that can handle what comes next. My dear brother, my dear sister, you may feel impatient. You may feel like you have been in this hidden place for too long. You may wonder when things will finally change. Let me offer you a gentle reminder. Seeds grow in the dark, not in the open, not in the light, in the soil, in the unseen. And when they finally break through the surface, what people see in a moment is the result of what happened over a long time in silence. Your life is not different. What Allah is building in you now, quietly, will one day be felt by others, even if they never know how it began. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the part of you that fears being forgotten. You are not forgotten, you are being written. Your story is not being erased, it is being edited. And sometimes Allah removes a chapter so the next one can be read clearly. This does not mean the earlier pages were mistakes. It means the story is moving forward. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me share something that can bring you peace. What Allah removes is never removed to leave you empty. It is removed to make room. Room for a deeper peace. Room for a clearer purpose. Room for people, opportunities, and paths that match the person you are becoming. And when those things arrive, they do not just fit your life. They honor it. They respect your growth. They reflect your values. They support your relationship with Allah instead of pulling you away from Him. This is what replacement from Allah looks like. It is not always bigger in the eyes of the world, but it is always better for the heart. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me speak to the moment when Allah finally brings you into a more visible place. When your efforts begin to be noticed, when your growth begins to be recognized, when your presence begins to matter in ways it did not before. If that moment comes, and it often does, remember where you were shaped. Remember the quiet nights. Remember the lonely moments. Remember the prayers that only Allah heard. Let those memories keep you humble. Let them remind you that everything you carry was given to you, not created by you alone. This is how honor stays clean. This is how success stays gentle. This is how growth stays sincere. My dear brother, my dear sister, let me leave you with this reflection. If Allah has removed things from your life in private, trust that He is preparing to place something in your life that will honor you in ways you cannot yet see. Not always in applause, not always in attention, but in peace. A peace that feels like being in the right place at the right time. A peace that feels like being comfortable in your own heart. A peace that feels like walking through life with Allah close to you, not far from you. And that kind of honor is greater than anything the world can give. Stay patient, stay sincere, stay close to Allah. Because the one who is shaping you in the quiet is also the one who knows exactly when and how to reveal what He has built. And when that moment comes, you will not just step into something new. You will step into something that fits the person you have become through every moment of being unseen. My dear brother, my dear sister, if you are still here with me in this quiet moment, let me leave you with something gentle to carry into the rest of your night. Allah does not write stories that end in emptiness. Every door He allows to close is protecting you from a room you were never meant to stay in. Every person He allows to walk away is making space for a version of you that needs a different kind of world to grow in. You may not understand it now. You may still feel the ache of what changed. You may still miss what used to be. But trust this. The same Allah who guided you through what you lost is guiding you toward what you are becoming. So do not rush your healing. Do not measure your worth by who stayed. Do not shrink your light to fit into places Allah is calling you out of. Walk forward gently, pray quietly, trust deeply. And when the world feels heavy again, remember this moment. You are not forgotten, you are not delayed, you are not alone. You are being carried by the one who never lets go. May Allah place peace in your heart, clarity in your path, and patience in your steps. And may He always surround you with what brings you closer to Him, not further away. Ameen.